So today we're going to dive into a really fundamental conflict, one that could totally redefine our future. We're looking at the big, dominant idea of artificial intelligence versus this radical alternative called Agapistic Influence.
Let's just kick things off with a pretty provocative question. We're all caught up in this AI revolution, right? But what if this whole race for bigger and bigger models, for more and more power, what if it's actually a race to the bottom? A race that in the end, nobody really wins.
And here's the core argument. The whole debate we're having about AI, about safety, about who's in control, it might be missing the entire point. The idea is that modern AI is built on a category error. We've made a fundamental mistake in how we even define artificial and intelligence in the first place.
This really lays it all out. On one hand, you have current AI. It's basically a giant guessing machine. It's centralized, it uses brute force power, and it's extractive by nature. And that, well, it just generates chaos and instability. But then you look at nature's blueprint. It's the total opposite. It's diffused, it's collaborative, it emerges from the ground up. It's a system that doesn't guess, it's a system that knows, and it creates resilience and balance.
Okay, so if the current model is broken, what's the fix? Well, the idea is we need to look at the most successful, most resilient operating system ever created, nature itself.
At the very heart of nature's OS is this idea from the philosopher Charles Sanders Peirce called agapism. Now, we're not talking about romantic love here. Think of it more like evolutionary love, a creative force that brings independent things together into a greater, more coherent harmony. It's the exact opposite of a zero-sum competitive game.
So how is this system built? The basic building block is something called a holon. It's a really cool idea. A holon is something that is a complete whole all by itself, but it's also a functioning part of a larger whole, right? Like a single cell in your body is a complete system, but it's also just one part of you. Your body is a complete system, but it's part of an ecosystem. That's the basic architecture of life.
You know, your own body is the perfect example of this in action. I mean, think about it. It's making billions of tiny, disinterested decisions every single second. There's no profit motive, no hoarding. Its one and only goal is homeostasis, perfect balance. And it does all this using the least amount of energy possible with zero waste, all governed by actual need, not some chaotic competition.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But it brings up a huge question. Can we actually code this? Can we build technology that's based on harmony instead of just brute force? The proposed answer is something called the semiotic web.
The basic unit of this new web is called the token. You can think of it like a digital atom of meaning. But here's the key difference. Unlike a normal piece of data, a token carries its own context with it. It knows its own history, where it came from. It has its own proof baked right in.
And these tokens, they don't just sit there. They create meaning through this incredible process called infinite semiosis. It's a never-ending cycle. A signal appears, could be data, an event, anything. Then an observer interprets it, and that's where meaning is created. And then that interpretation becomes a brand new signal for others to interpret. It's a living engine of understanding.
Now, you might think this sounds chaotic, but it's not. There's a built-in logic of convergence. What that means is, over time, all these different signals and interpretations, they naturally start to move toward a shared, stable, and more accurate reality. It's how a system can build truth from the ground up, without a central authority telling it what to think.
All right, so when you put all these pieces together, what do you get? This isn't just about some new tech. This is about changing the entire game that we're all playing as a society.
The game we're playing now, well, it runs on what the source material calls counterfeit forms of love. Things like competition, possession, the need for control. These are the forces driving our economies and politics, and they are, by their very nature, divisive and totally unsustainable.
So the new game starts by changing the most fundamental thing, the goal. It's not about winning a zero-sum game anymore. The new goal is simply to evolve together. And that, of course, completely flips our values. Instead of the impulse to hoard resources and information, the new, most important value becomes contributing your unique perspective to the whole.
And the last piece of the puzzle is the structure itself. We move away from those rigid top-down hierarchies and toward a dynamic, self-organizing network of holons, of these interconnected wholes and parts.
So what does this actually look like in the real world? I mean, how does playing this new game transform our economy?
Well, for starters, the very idea of value gets a complete overhaul.
You no longer buy intelligence from some giant corporation. You're rewarded for contributing to intelligence, your personal experience, your unique context. That becomes your most valuable asset. Work stops being just a grind and becomes a voluntary, satisfying contribution. The power that comes from hoarding money gets replaced by real-time recognition for your positive impact.
And the scale of this change, it's just massive. We're not talking about small improvements here. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in annual savings, a reduction of terawatts in energy consumption. This isn't a small tweak. It's a thermodynamic revolution in efficiency.
But beyond all the numbers, this is the real human promise of a system like this. In a world where it's so easy to feel overlooked or forgotten, this new way of doing things offers a guarantee. Your genuine contribution will be permanently and publicly recognized. The system will never, ever forget what you did.
And all of this really forces us to redefine what intelligence even is. It's not about being the person who knows all the answers. True intelligence is being part of a dynamic network that actually understands its own limitations. And because of that, it values every single contribution, no matter how small it might seem.
So, that brings us to the final and maybe the most important question. The source material argues that the code for this new world, this blueprint from nature, is finally here. The technology is ready to go. The only thing left to ask is a human one. Are we brave enough to run it?